Wow, Frank, you've got a lot of stuff for us to show the group here. You know, before we get into some of the details, and I know people are anxious to hear about fans and all the different things that you use, but why don't you tell us a little bit about Professional Discount Supply?
Professional Discount Supply is a supply house for radon mitigation materials. We try to be one-stop for most of the details of the mitigation supplies that you need. We have a website that you can purchase online, and we provide support for the homeowner and the professional mitigator.
I think that's a key thing, the support. I mean, there's a lot of things we're going to talk about today, and a lot of our students, as well as the do-it-yourselfers, have questions like what fan is better and so forth. And I think that technical support is one of the key things that come from your organization. At least that's what I've heard from the people out in the field.
Yes, we get a lot of feedback from our customers and stuff of the support we're able to provide to them. We've got a base of mitigators that we can draw their suggestions and their feedback from, and try to solve problems that they've run into before, and we can provide that to not only other mitigators but homeowners.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you also not just distribute or resell, you actually manufacture some of the things right here based upon that input from mitigators.
Yes, we have some proprietary products that we manufactured. One is the KTA low voltage system, and we also have some other products that are proprietary to us, the soil gas mat for new construction, and some other small products that we manufacture.
Why don't we go ahead and get started? And probably, you know, the crux of the whole thing is the fan. So why don't we talk a little bit about the fans that are available to the mitigator? I mean, and also for the do-it-yourselfer, it's not a standard fan that you necessarily pick up from Home Depot. That a lot of work has gone into designing fans that can handle the kind of environment that we have in a radon mitigation system. So let's go ahead and get started with some of these.
Okay. First, I'll grab one of the standard fans. There's two types of fans in general that people are going to use. One's a high volume type fan. The other is a high suction type fan. Basically, in general, maybe 90 to 95% of the mitigations require more air than suction. Mm-hmm. And we can go into those details if you want. But this is a standard high volume fan. This is a Radon fan. We carry both Radon and Fantech products. Mm-hmm. 5-year warranty on all of the products, and have been very, very reliable.
Well, this is really kind of the workhorse of the whole industry, and maybe we can talk a little bit about some of the things that have improved over the years. I know where the clamshell comes together. You can see caulking right in there where they've sealed this, where many years ago it would have a little bit of leakage. So that's an improvement. And also, as far as the, I guess the electrical, this is where one would connect, right?
Yes.
To this?
Yes.
And there's a cover that has a gasket. So these are rated for outdoors.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. But appropriately in the attic or in the garage or outdoors, not in the living space. And these motors, I mean, they've been around for years. This is like not a brand new product. What's been your experience with failure, the kind of callbacks that you get, and what kind of things cause that?
The fans have been very reliable, especially one of the main improvements that they have made in the inline fans is the impeller and the motor. Mm-hmm. They're an integrated unit now, so it has the basically the blade and the motor are all one unit. And as long as some minor precautions and stuff are followed in terms of positioning the fan, right. The fans and the motors have been very, very reliable.
Well, and specifically, they need to be vertical.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of moisture that comes around. Otherwise, you'll fill like that. The fan will fill up with water. And electrical and water doesn't mix very well.
No. Yeah. So this is not a good installation because, like you just said, the the housing can fill up with water and shortly would reduce the lifespan of the fan.
Okay. Normal life expectancy and power usage, you think?
Life expectancy, there's 5-year warranty on both the Radon Away and the Fantech fans. Our experience has been that if fans are installed properly, and one of the key factors there is if they're left running, they'll run for 10 years plus. I mean, that's probably just an average. We have a fan, which is actually the low voltage system that has the Fantech fan on it, and it's been in operation for 15 years now.
Right. Yeah, that's the key thing, is keep them running all the time. And as far as power consumption, we're talking like an amp or less, not a big energy draw.
Yes, this size fan, this particular one is one of the larger fans, so this is about an amp and a half.
Okay.
But in general, most of the fans are about 70 watts or less.
Not a big power consumption.
No.
Excellent. It doesn't require a separate circuit unless it's already overloaded.
Right.
Great. Now this is a 6-inch discharge, and I see you've got some other size fans. Would you tell us a little bit about those?
Okay, basically, again, this is still a more of a higher volume fan.
Little difference in size.
Little different configuration, a little bit smaller, moves less air, and you know, some of the factors on size of the fan are basically square footage, where they're going to be used, whether it's an outside system, whether it's an inside system, connecting to a sump pump, those kind of things.
Well, certainly in new construction, where you can seal the slabs very well and reduce the amount of air, smaller fans are appropriate for that as well.
Right. This fan would probably be a good choice if you're maybe doing a crawl space where you're able to seal the crawl space completely with membrane.
Okay. What else we got? Got quite a collection here, Frank.
Yeah, one of the other two types of fans that I had mentioned, one was high volume and then high suction. This is a high suction fan. This would be used in cases where you're not going to move a lot of air. Has a smaller opening, 3-inch opening. This would be used where you have clay-like soils or very tight sand, where you're not going to move very much air.
Right, where it's difficult to get that pressure field extension, as you say, tight soils, where you got to suck a little bit, but also because it is tight soils, you're not moving a lot of air, so you can get by with a lower volume fan. And I also noticed that they have a bracket here that makes it a little bit easier to mount.
Yes.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Boy, more things. And
then one of the newer designs out there is the what they call the square rectangular fan.
I wonder how I got that name.
Little nicer maybe in terms of the cosmetic appearance of it. And this would mount flush up against the wall. It's the same performance of an HP 2190 type fan from Fantech.
So it's 3-inch and
no, actually it's 4-inch.
Okay, excuse me.
Yep.
And there's your suction inlet right back here.
Right.
Okay, so it can be up flush against the outside of the house, which is nice. And there's also a condensate diverter, or at least water.
Right. This one has a built-in condensate diverter, so the water does flow down through and into your suction point.
That's what this little hole is right here, right?
Right.
So a little hole for the water from the discharge pipe can drain down through there and get back to the suction point. It's a great feature.
And this one isn't stocked by Fantech. Radon Away also has their new version of a rectangular fan that we'll be carrying shortly.
Okay. Great. Well, you mentioned a couple times low voltage, Frank. Why don't you? That's what this little guy is right here, right?
Yes, this is a system that we manufacture. It's the low voltage system, and it's basically a 3-piece package. It comes with a control box, cable that can be up to 100 feet.
This out a little bit easier where people can see. Hang on a bit there.
This is the control box. And it has a meter indicator on it, which acts as your system indicator. So there's no need for a liquid tube type manometer or other type manometer. It has a built-in circuit breaker switch, and then this box can be mounted anywhere from 50 to 100 feet from where the fan is, which allows you to mount the fan either outside, up in an attic, long distances where you don't then have to have power at that location.
Well, before you move that away, so what we have is plug-ins. So basically, you just plug it into an existing receptacle that's in the house.
Right.
Is what you're saying. And you mentioned the circuit breaker. You said it pretty quick. I want to point this out that this really can protect the fan if you get a bird or something, obstruction in the fan. That normally, if you're tied to a 15 amp or 20 amp circuit on a regular fan, it will not trip the breaker. Whereas in this setup, if you did have an obstruction, it will trip the breaker and protect the fan.
Right.
Excellent. And so the advantage of this is that you can place this anywhere in the house where it's easy for the homeowner to see, and then run the cable, you say 75 foot to 100 foot away. Now, is that Romex that you're running, or what is it you're actually running?
No, it's a PVC type cable.
This is it right here. Okay.
Right.
We got lots of toys here today. Okay.
And so basically the customer or the homeowner, the mitigator, would run the cable from this end back to the box.
Okay.
And connect it to a terminal in here.
That's easy.
And then the other end is just a quick disconnect on the fan.
Oh, well, that's slick. So it just connects right here. And that also provides the disconnect that's required in the mitigation standards at the fan. Okay.
Yeah, along with the circuit breaker switch on the side of the box.
Right. Okay. So this is 24 volt from the indicator to the fan. You know, in some areas, depends upon the jurisdictions, do not require electrical permits to run a fan like this. It's much like what sprinkler or alarm circuits, wiring, and so forth. That check with your jurisdiction, but it's a really easy thing. I've used it a lot of times. That even though professional contractors could hire electricians or have electricians, this goes in really fast, and it's got the indicator already tied in.
Right. The advantage to it is, like you just said, it's all plug-in. You don't have to worry about scheduling an electrician.
Right.
Because that's a big factor at times is scheduling and making sure that they can get there when you are doing the installation.
Mm-hmm. And the inspector to come back for sure. And let me ask you this: as far as let me lift this out here. So the power coming to the fan is low voltage, but the actual fan has the same performance characteristics of a normal fan, correct?
This has the same performance as an FR150.
Okay.
Fantech fan.
Mm-hmm. All right. And
it's basically the same design. Has the integral type motor and impeller. Again, 5-year warranty on it. And we actually modified this with an agreement with Fantech, so there are no warranty issues.
One thing I noticed here when I turned it over is some holes that have been drilled. Have you drilled these holes?
Yes.
Okay.
That's to allow some additional moisture and water condensate to flow through these holes. Mm-hmm. Just because of the design of the housing has a little bit of a cup in here, and so the water needs to be able to drain out.
Right. Now your coupling would be over the top of this, so the water draining down would stay inside of the pipe.
Yes,
for sure. Excellent. And I see everything's well sealed and caulked inside for the wires that go into the handy box, because you don't want to have radon or moisture getting into the handy box where it can condense and fill up. Great.
Okay, and then along with basically the same KTA low voltage system, we can provide it in a NEMA 4 box. Mm-hmm. So that if in the case where you needed to install it completely outside, you can install these systems outside in the box. Mm-hmm. Instances where this has been used has basically been like apartment complexes, military bases when you need to be able to walk up from the outside without disturbing each homeowner or each individual, and be able to walk up and see that the system is still performing.
Right. Yeah, scheduling into apartments is difficult, so the maintenance guy just walks along. He can see in this meter whether the system's still operating the way it was originally installed. So that's great. Now, again, to be clear, that the box you have with the KTA is to be located inside of a house. It's not outdoor rated.
Right.
The fan is outdoor rated,
right.
But if you need to have an indicator outdoors, then the one that you're holding would be what you would want to do. Okay.
Yeah, and we this box is specifically made for the KTA. We also have a similar NEMA box for 110 volt units that have a meter indicator on it.
All right, so it's regular voltage, but you still have that really cool indicator that it's supposed to be straight up, right? Right on the green.
Yep.
And if it goes one way or the other, there's something going wrong.
Right.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about indicators, because one of the things that people need to have is a performance indicator. These are typically not radon measurement devices, but you go through, you put in your system, and you always test to verify that it's below 4, and once it is, you want to continue to run the system that same manner. So one of the things we do is have vacuum indicators that say the vacuum, on April 17th, 2011 was what, maybe 3/4 of an inch, and it reduced the radon, so I want to keep it at 3/4 of an inch. That's the whole concept. So what do we have there? You've already showed us this one here, which is the ammeter style on the KTA. That functions in that process. But if you're not using the KTA system, what can I pull off the table for you?
We have the U-tube.
Okay.
And this is basically a liquid type manometer, and it has a range of 0 to 4 inches, and basically gives you your suction in inches of water column. And we have various different types of a manometer. This one here in particular mounts directly to the pipe. And again, this should be installed indoors. Manometers, liquid manometers, do not work very well on the outside.
That's right. Before we move on here, a couple things I want to share about these. First of all, Frank mentioned it's measuring inches of water column. And this scale is what you would read from. It's because oil has different specific gravity that they've collapsed this scale to be comparable to an inch of water column. So don't put your measuring stick to say I've got 3/4 of an inch. You read it off of here. And also there's some blue, all these things come with stoppers to keep the oil from falling out. Both stoppers get to be removed. Okay.
Yes.
And then a small tube, which is actually provided. You can see a small little tube that this would mount on the pipe, and then this tube would be connected to either side, and then drill through a small, 1/4 inch hole or something like that into the pipe that this tube is inserted into. But they're not radon monitors. They're only there to tell the homeowner if the system changes, which could be what, Frank, from a bird in the fan, hopefully not, or the fan stopping completely.
Correct. The fan stops working.
Okay. Great.
This is another version of a manometer. This is a little nicer in terms of ease of filling the manometer with oil, because over long periods of time, oil will sometimes dissipate.
What's long periods of time, Frank?
I found it's been maybe 5 to 10 years.
Okay. So if the oil dries out and it's a red oil, that it could tell the homeowner that the system's not working properly when it really is, and you just lost some oil. So you can get there's actually gauge oil, plenty of gauge oil that comes with this thing that you can just refill it.
Yes. So again, the advantage of this one is it's easy to fill. It has a 0 setting with a level on it so that you get it level when you install it on the wall, and it's a remote monitor. So this can be mounted on the wall, and then there's a hose that runs to the suction pipe of the radon system.
That would connect on top. Again, you would leave the other one open, just connect a 1/4 inch hole. And in my experience, that 1/4 inch tubing can be as long as you want, as long as you don't run it through a cold space. if you run even the tubing into the attic space, you'll get condensation inside the tubing, which will give you some weird measurements on here. You know, you said something, Frank, I want to go back to as far as external and then interior installations. Just to be clear, that this would be installed on the pipe on the inside of the building. This would be installed for piping on the inside of the building. That if you have any, I mean, a fully external system like you might have an exterior perimeter drain, how do you do it? How do you do indicators?
The only other option, and it's still not the best option, would be a Magnehelic type manometer and some kind of an enclosure.
Okay, or you use this,
or the KTA system,
which has an ammeter
right
on it. Okay, when you said a mag,
yeah, that's it, Magnehelic. This is a Magnehelic type manometer, so it has no liquid, but you still have the tubing, so you still have issues if it's installed outside of properly installing the tubing, because if you get any water condensate in there, you'll have the same problems. But you don't have to worry about the liquid in this one.
Okay. Well, we've talked about the fans. Maybe let's talk a little bit about how we connect these things. And, you know, obviously we need more than just the fan. We need to have a piping system to convey the radon out. So a little bit about connectors. If you see, you got a couple here. And these are, like, this is a typical 6-inch. You've got it in white and black. Is it a designer choice, or is there a difference in these?
It's personal preference. You know, the fans are like a white or an off-white, so we have a lot of customers who like the white one just for cosmetic reasons. But if they're being installed up in an attic area or somewhere where they're not going to be seen, then most of the time they'll use black because it's a little bit cheaper.
Now again, we would have one on top and one below.
Right.
So that the fan can move, you know, and vibrate a little bit. It also reduces the noise attenuation in the house for sure, and makes it easy to take the fan apart, you know, if you have to replace it, which you said maybe 10, 11 years, as long as you keep it running. And there's some stainless connectors here to make it easy to attach and unattach. And also they slide up a little bit down, make it easy to connect to your pipe, right?
Right. And these are special size couplers. It's not a standard size. We call them 6x4s, but it's really not a true 6x4 because this fan opening here is about 5.5 inches.
Okay. Well, the thing that you don't want to do is glue the fan to the PVC pipe. That would be very difficult to get out. So that's why we use these as well as noise attenuation. So let me ask you this, as far as external applications, have you seen a difference in deterioration between these two with UV or anything like that?
The black ones hold up real well. The white ones will discolor over long periods of time if they're in direct sunlight. But in terms of the flexibility, they hold up very well.
Okay, and temperature, extreme temperatures?
Extreme temperature, yeah, and they remain very flexible.
Great, excellent. And of course, you need to have different sizes. Some of the other previous fans you showed are smaller.
Right. So some of like the high suction fans that have a 3-inch opening, you would just need the smaller fittings.
Okay, great. While we're talking about flexible adapters, there's a lot of times where you would need to connect 4-inch to 4-inch. You could use a coupling, but there's occasions like maybe where you're connected to a sump that you would want to be able to break that pipe, or homeowner take the pipe apart to remove the lid. So this is kind of a handy thing to take apart and break your pipe, right?
Correct.
Super. You know, one of the comments I always get from homeowners is, how noisy are these fans? We didn't really talk about that.
Okay, the manufacturers of the fans, for whatever reason, they do not publish like zone levels or dB levels. Okay, and the main reason for that is because it's so variable. Most of the noise from most of the fan systems is coming from airflow,
right? More
so than the fan itself. So generally, when people ask me, you know, how loud is the fan? The fans are pretty quiet, but it's based on how much airflow there is.
And especially, you know, with the fans in the attic, or outside like it's supposed to be, you're not going to hear that. It's going to be that air noise. So anything that you can do to reduce the amount of air being handled through caulking and sealing, you're going to reduce that noise. And also say that that's the reason we have these YouTube manometers in there. These fans, when they're installed properly with the vibration isolators and so forth, are so quiet that people don't even know when they stop. So that's why I kind of tell people, but I'll say like a refrigerator, on defrost or something like that, you really don't notice it. And one more thing on the fans. We said that they were rated for outdoors. But sometimes, when you see a fan outdoors, it's not the most pleasant thing if you can't hide it. And I've seen people building enclosures. But let me see if I can grab this for you, Frank. You got some special enclosures.
Okay, this is, again, this is for outdoor purposes, and it's a two-piece unit. It's called a weaver cover, and the outside cover here comes either in a black or white. The back that mounts up against the structure,
so this will be up against the house like this.
Correct, okay. And this is always black, and then this cover fits over completely over the fan system. The one nice thing about this is that there's some cosmetics involved. Some people are very sensitive to that.
Right.
So it helps cover up the fan that's just hanging out in the air. And the one advantage to this system is that once you've mounted the back plate, then this diverter here brings the pipe flush up against the wall. And we'll see a picture of that later of one of the examples.
So the fan's down here.
Correct.
And connected with a rubber connector at this point.
Right.
And your pipe is either coming from down below, where you would cut a hole in the bottom of the cover for the pipe to come up.
Correct.
Or if you're coming like straight out of a crawl space, you can cut a hole in the back side of the cover. So you don't even see any of the suction piping in that application.
Right.
It's a pretty tight fit. You would need to use a Street 90 to connect to the bottom of the fan.
Right. We have some detailed instructions, and we have an adapter and stuff for creating a little bit more space in there if needed.
And these are paintable, too. If you want to have something painted to match the side of your house, you could do that.
Correct. We recommend that if you are going to paint it, that you use either some kind of a plastic primer or plastic paint that will adhere to the cover.
Okay, super. Okay, looks like a regular piece of pipe to me, Frank. What's special about this?
Okay, this is what we call the hydrocep. And again, this is one of the items that we do manufacture. And the whole purpose of the hydrocep is to divert a lot of the water and moisture and condensate that you will get in the pipe during conditions of cold weather. And let me grab this.
We do that for comic relief in these videos.
Yeah. So the hydrocep has what we call weep holes, and it allows the water to run down the pipe and out the system, so then you're not getting all of that water and moisture to run through the fan. But more importantly, inside this pipe, if you can maybe see that, there's a little Ventura set up in there. And basically what that does is it prevents ice that has formed above. And when we get a little bit of a thaw or temperature change, the ice falls down the pipe. That piece inside there prevents the ice from falling into the fan, jamming up the impeller and doing damage.
Right. A couple things I'd like to emphasize on this. This would be installed outdoors. You would not put this on the discharge of a fan that's up in the attic, because as you say, water's weeping out of these holes.
Correct.
And that would not be a good thing to have on your ceiling. And if you use these, it's amazing. I've seen where in the wintertime you'll see a big icicle, and that's very common. Icicles will come off this, and that's what we expect to happen, because that's keeping that moisture and that ice from getting into the system. It also helps dry out the soil underneath the slab or under the crawl space, which is a good thing. So,
correct. there's various ways of doing this. This has been the most reliable, and in terms of warranty, recalls and things like that, this has helped very, very well.
Right, I've definitely seen that as well. What about how with the Venturi that you showed here? What kind of impact on fan performance?
Very minimal. The tests that we've done, that Venturi is very short. It's only about 2 inches tall. And the only time it makes a difference is if you're moving a lot of air. So if you're at the high end of the performance of this fan, which would be around 265 CFM, it may affect or impact the CFM maybe by 10 or 15 CFM.
Yeah, and typically you don't need that kind of quantity.
Right. Typically, most of the fans, probably in general, you're operating somewhere around 100 or 150 CFM,
right.
So there's very minimal impact.
Right. Something else I'll share. People always ask, well, gosh, there's holes. We're discharging radon out of these holes. And that's the advantage of the Venturi, because there's a little pressure drop inside here that you actually, if you use a smoke bottle, you'll see smoke go in these holes, which means outdoor air is going in rather than radon-laden air coming out, and actually can change the dew point.
Correct.
If it's cold and dry outside, right?
Right. Yeah, and one of the key factors there is that, and some of the calls that we do get, like you just said, is people think it seems like I put my hand up against the hole and I can feel air coming out. It's actually getting sucked in there to the point where you can feel it on your fingers. So the best way to check it is either some kind of a smoke bottle or something so that you can see the flow going in the hole and not out.
Yep. Pretty amazing. It's really, my experience is it's significantly extended the life of fans that are installed outdoors, which is pretty common right now. Let's go a little bit further. Let's stay with a pipe as far as attaching. There's a lot of brackets that are available out there. I noticed this off the table, so tell us a little bit about this guy.
This is a really nice, what we call clicks connector, and basically mounts up against the wall, and then you just push it around the pipe, and it clicks into place. And very, very strong and sturdy type connector, so that you don't have to worry about wind and other things of blowing the pipe down. This is a pretty heavy-duty clamp. It is probably more commercial, where we find a lot of the mitigators are doing a commercial job, and they'll use this clamp here.
Well, like a school, when you're putting pipe on the outside, if you do that,
right.
We can't keep the kids from climbing up the pipe, but at least we have it secure enough where doesn't fall off.
Right. Okay, and then one of the other clamps that we have, which is that piece there. This is just a piece that we manufacture. It gets fastened to the wall, and then it actually snaps around the pipe. Okay. It actually can snap it around the pipe and hold it in place.
So you would glue that then?
No.
Okay.
No, you can if you want it to be permanent, but it holds it pretty tight. Mm-hmm. We recommend maybe at least 2 of these per every 10 feet of pipe.
Okay, excellent.
And then the J-hook would be more for a horizontal type run, where you're in a basement area or crawl space.
That's tough to get off, isn't it?
Yeah. A basement crawl space type thing, and again, this would be hung around the pipe, so you could hang it to a joist, so you'd have a horizontal run and you'd have support on the pipe.
Well, I noticed there's holes in this, so you could nail it, screw it to a joist or whatever, and you could actually, if you want to have a little pitch, you can get that all set up and then just drop your pipe right in.
Correct.
Right. Well, we've got this pipe pretty well supported, haven't we?
Yes, we do.
All right. Speaking of pipe, we're talking, Schedule 40 PVC pipe, typically drain, waste, and vent. And 4-inch is pretty common, has been in my experience. In some parts of the country, 3-inch does work. But since we have a lot of outdoor applications, people have gone to using downspout, a larger 3x4 inch downspout. So you actually supply downspout, don't you?
Yes, we carry the commercial grade size downspout, which is the 4x3. And again, one of the reasons that it's that size is to make sure that we don't restrict airflow. We recommend using the 4x3, and when we're talking about PVC pipe, we always recommend 4-inch because it's hard to go back if you've installed 3-inch and you need more airflow.
You mean you don't sell the tool that expands a 3-inch pipe to a 4-inch?
No.
You wish you did, huh?
No. Yep. So yeah, this is the downspout where you can then transition on a fan on the outside installation from 4-inch Schedule 40 pipe to the rectangular downspout, and then we'll show we can.
I don't know if I can get this out or not, but you can see it's a special adapter that Frank's talking about, from round to rectangular, that the downspout fits into, and then you would caulk it.
Right. And one of the key features of this adapter is that it's offset, so that it brings your downspout flush up against the house, so that you don't have any gaps.
Okay. And then as far as supporting the downspout, you can use typical downspout straps.
Right.
Okay.
And then in a commercial installation, that same fitting, the clicks connector, will also clamp strongly around the downspout.
Oh, really? Excellent. So being clear here, once again, this is on the discharge of the fan. If you want to use downspout, and downspout would only be used when you're running outside the house. You would not run downspout through the interior.
Correct.
And what about if you have to put a couple sticks together? I mean, these come in 10-foot lengths, right?
Right. Correct. The sticks are crimped so that one side will fit into the other, so they're easily assembled.
So you would do it just like downspout, making sure that the top one fits inside the lower one, so water runs down and gets all the way down to, say, to the hydrosep underneath it.
Right.
Yeah. So it drains out, not the other way around. So great.
Right. So that would be.
Yeah, it would be like
be
this.
It'd
be like a rubber adapter over the top of this. It'd be straighter than this, hopefully, when I do it.
And well, we can show a picture of it later of the
okay.
The complete.
Now, another thing I noticed, Frank, on this one is that there's a screen in the discharge. It's pretty easy because you want to make sure the birds and squirrels and so forth will not climb down inside these things. Always have a varmint guard. So you can do that on downspout, but I see you've got some other varmint guards here. Tell us a little bit about these.
Yes, this is just what we call an exhaust guard, and again, it has the screen, and the screen that's in here is a 1/4-inch size screen, and the reason for that is this does not restrict the airflow. You can go up maybe to a 1/2-inch screen if that's what you have available, but we use mostly 1/4-inch for what we have, and it's very, very important in terms of not getting critters that crawl down in there, like you said, and any other kind of leaves, other debris that would get into the fan.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, because I've actually seen birds go down and feathers come out. Not a pretty sight. You know, we didn't talk about elbows for the downspouts. You got so many things on your table, Frank, I'm losing track. But also, I mean, you're going to have to go around eaves to get above roofs, which you would do with awning, with downspout or pipe. And obviously it'll take special elbows, A or B elbows, to do that.
The A elbow basically would come out and away from the structure of where your downspout is. The B elbow basically is designed so that it'll go along a wall, like you said, so if you have to jog around things. And then we also have what we call ledge jumpers, which actually go around like belly wraps and things like that that are on the houses, so they actually offset and then come back.
Okay. Cool. Oftentimes you'd be running the pipe up maybe through the interior of the house and you're going through the ceiling. that's finished. What's this little cosmetic guy?
Yeah, basically that's what it is. It's a cosmetic flange, so that if you had a piece of pipe through your wall or wherever, you basically then can make your hole large enough so that you're not trying to jam or try to fit the pipe through the wall, and then this just goes right over the top of it to kind of.
So when I look up, I don't
off.
see a ragged hole. I see this up there, and you perhaps caulked around to keep bugs
Correct.
and things from climbing around.
Right.
Well, what about going through a garage wall? As far as fire barriers, we have a fire barrier here.
Yeah, garage walls in most jurisdictions, it's required that you have to have a fire barrier. So this is one of the fire barriers that we carry as a Hilti. We have another style which is called the Bio. It's a little bit thinner, but basically they serve the same function. Basically, just to the material inside here will prevent the fire from penetrating the wall.
So this would be applied. It's like a clamp that goes around the pipe and attached to the wall inside the garage, because that's the fire side.
Right.
And if there was a fire in the garage, this would squeeze off the PVC pipe. I've never seen it happen. I don't ever want to see it happen, but it's one of those code things.
Never tested it.
And not only going through the wall into the garage, I need to be conscious of the ceiling in the garage. That could be a fire ceiling, and especially if you're putting systems in multifamily dwellings, apartments, and so forth, every ceiling you go through is a fire-rated ceiling, so you would need one of these.
Yes, and you have to go with what your regional codes are, because some of them require two collars, one on the bottom of the floor and one on the top if you're doing a commercial building.
Right. Yeah, we want people to follow the codes out there. The drain check. Now, this would be something that you would utilize if you're creating a vacuum, let's say, on your exterior foundation drain that goes to a daylight soakaway, where the pipe would drain off the hillside and let the water away from the house. And if we're pulling a vacuum on that perforated pipe, we don't want to lose the vacuum by sucking a lot of outdoor air. So this is what's used on the daylight end, so you don't interfere with the water drainage from the system. So how does this, this looks pretty fancy.
Well, first of all, this is a pretty heavy duty drain check. This is a commercial grade drain check. It has a clean out, so you can clean it out. And it has a flapper door. It's got a seal type door there that flaps and seals off, and it's gasketed. So it's a very heavy duty piece of a drain check.
Well, and on that, as you see, that the water, because that flapper is full volume, that is going to not impede any water getting away from drainage system. I've seen people get a little enthusiastic. They'll actually seal that off rather than put in a drain check. You don't want to do that, or they'll put a trap on it, which will fill up with dirt, and squirrels will store their nuts and whatever in there. That's why you want to have the pipe coming in one end and coming out the other without any obstructions, and this serves that purpose.
And then we manufacture a little less expensive version of the drain check, which is what we have. And we have an adapter on the back. Some drainage systems have 3-inch pipes, some have 4-inch, so we have an adapter that you can adapt to both types of pipe.
And to interrupt you, but typically the pipe that would be coming off the drain would be this black corrugated pipe as opposed to PVC, right?
Correct. And then the inside is similar to the heavy-duty one. It has a flapper valve in there.
Okay.
That does the same, performs the same function. It allows water to flow out, but yet it keeps the suction from the fan when there's no water flow.
Okay. And they both work equally well?
Yes.
Okay. Excellent. All right. So let's see. We've kind of connected to our fan. We've gone to the discharge. We've talked about different types of pipe. Let's go to the other end of this thing, where we would say tie into a sub slab as far as the connection at the floor.
Right. This is what we call our PVC floor bushing. This would be when you're going to core a hole in the floor. we always recommend at least a 6-inch hole. And the reason for that being is you need enough room to get a tool in there, and we can show one of the tools later, to be able to dig some material out of there. And generally we recommend, you know, two 5-gallon buckets of material at least. And it this fitting then would go into your hole once you're done
through the concrete slab.
Right. And it's got a little ridge on here, if you can see the ridge, and that fits flush up against the concrete, and then you can just caulk it in place, and then your pipe fits right into the
typical PVC connection in here. And I have to agree with Frank on the hole size. Even though we're running 4-inch pipe, when you put your arm down through a 4-inch hole or even a 3-inch hole with all the jagged concrete and rebar, rewire, it's not a fun thing to do. So make a larger hole and then reduce down. And you could even reduce from 4 to 3 if you're running 3-inch pipe in your system.
Yeah, that's what the system requires. Yeah.
And as far as coring the hole to the concrete, you can use either a hammer drill or a core rig. These will work for either one. And I like it because, as you said, that lip gives it that vertical support, because once that is in there, it's pretty solid. And, of course, you still want to caulk the area around the edge of this to the concrete slab. Super. Okay. As I look back at the table, what haven't we picked up? And I know what this is, but for our audience out there, they might say, what kind of interesting toys do you have? I think, Frank.
This is a dirt auger. Now this goes back to when we talked about coring a hole in the slab, and you use the floor bushing. So after you drill your 6-inch hole, you'd use this tool on a standard 1/2-inch drill to loosen up the soil, so that you can either scoop it out with a shovel of some sort, or what a lot of mitigators use is giant size
shop
vacs that just suck the material out.
Yeah, this fits on I would use it on a right angle drill that you can get in and loosen things out, and then, because getting that large pit is very, very important. Okay, let's go back to our system again. And let's say we're doing a sub-slab system. We're creating a vacuum underneath the slab. But we got leaks at the floor to wall joints, we got plumbing penetrations, and we all know that if we seal those, although sealing alone will not fix the radon problem, but if we seal those openings, we make our systems work better. So let's talk caulk a little bit. How's that?
Okay, these are some of the various caulks that we have, and they're pretty standard industry-wide. These are polyurethane type caulks, so they adhere to concrete, wood, damp surfaces, very well, and they remain flexible. That's one of the keys. And in the case of where you're doing some joints on the slab, if for some reason they move a little bit, you want the caulk to be flexible so that it doesn't, move the break the seal on the cement or wherever.
So silicone, we don't recommend that.
Right. Or
latex, which could be brittle. It's a polyurethane sealant. And what kind of comments have you had from the field as far as prep of let's say the floor to wall joint? Just vacuuming is what I typically tell people. Make sure it's free of debris. But have you had some other issues?
No, generally, just a fairly clean surface. It doesn't have to be perfect.
Okay.
And basically the difference in these caulks is we sell a lot of the SM caulk right now because it has less VOCs. It's a little bit more
organic compounds.
Right. It's a little more gunnable. The MP has been the industry standard for years and years, and we have certain customers that's the only thing they'll use.
You're kind of used to it. Now, when you're down there in a basement, especially an unfinished basement, there's an awful lot of caulk that you put down.
Right.
And that's an awful lot of squeezing, because these typically go in a normal gun.
Right.
Normal caulking gun. And I see you've got the contractor special back here.
Yes. This
now
is
that's,
called
now that's a caulking gun.
This is,
okay.
This is called the Cox caulk gun. So basically, this package here, which we call the sausage package, is 20 ounces. So it's twice the amount of the standard tubes, which are about 10 ounces. And it has, it's a heavy-duty trigger on it and stuff, so you have a little more leverage. So it's a little easier to apply. Basically, you just cut one end of the caulk, slide it in, and you're pretty much ready to do your caulking.
And what's nice about this is when you're done, you don't have a cardboard tube. You have a small little wrapper left over, so there's a lot less stuff to take away from the job. And then these are the tips that you use on it.
Right. If you don't take real good care of cleaning the caulk gun, you'll go through more tips and stuff. We carry all of the external parts for the caulk guns.
But you can put a tip on. I mean, you can store even caulk in there as long as you've put like duct tape or something to seal, keep the air away from the caulk. So I know a lot of guys love these things because it puts down a lot of caulk fast.
Okay, and then the other thing that we do have that's new, and we actually don't have it in stock, but we probably will by next month, is it's a new caulk that has no VOCs.
Oh, great!
And so we've been getting a lot of inquiries from people who are sensitive to the VOCs to come up with a caulk that's solvent-free.
Then you think this will be usable on concrete as well?
Yes, our preliminary tests are that this material here is actually standing up to the polyurethane and better in terms of adhesion.
Always something new coming from PDS. You know, speaking of caulk, the image that goes through my mind is a crawl space, which we haven't really talked about crawl spaces. You're putting a lot of caulk down, but you're also sealing plastic. So let's talk about plastic sheeting that you have here. And I think I see a piece down here on the bottom of the table. I can pass it.
This is our radon barrier, and this is a special material. It's white on both sides, which is kind of key for when you're doing crawl spaces and you're in a dark area.
Makes it nice and bright when you're done.
Oh yeah, and to be able to see if something does get torn or ripped or destroyed in some way, you can easily see it. But it's very, very, very tear resistant, very tensile strength. It's very hard to puncture this material. The reason for it is that this is actually a cross laminated, so it's actually two sheets. And the second sheet is I guess applied on an angle, which gives it the strong properties that it has.
I mean, you could use 6 mil, but dragging 6 mil through a crawl space with sharp rocks and so forth, it tears up pretty easily. This is tough stuff.
Yes, it is.
And the other thing is because you're going to seal this to a foundation wall, run a bead of caulk, you'll bring it right up to the caulk, smash it in. It's very durable. You could also see the line of caulk to make sure that you didn't miss a spot as well. Of course, you're going to come back and listen for leaks after you turn your system on. But this has worked out very well in the industry. But let me ask a question: use the same caulk? Has been your experience as far as sealing to the walls? Have you had some issues?
We've done a lot of testing with different caulks and different materials. The caulking material that we carry will guarantee that it will adhere to this material. There are other caulks out there, including silicones and a lot of other things. They're not going to adhere to this type of material very well.
Right. Well, and also at your seams and so forth, you could caulk them, or more and more people are using tape out there.
Yeah, the tape is nice.
Well, that's a roll of tape. Keep going.
The tape is nice for doing the seams, as you said. It's 4 inches by 120 feet. And so when you're in a crawl space and in tight spaces, sometimes it's easier to use the tape. But we recommend it be used only on the seams, not on the walls.
Oh,
because it's not really going to stick to the walls as well as the caulk.
So plastic to plastic. you know, especially if you're in a crawl space using a lot of caulk. I mean, a lot of vapors and so forth. You can keep it down by using the tapes of the seams, and you're also, as you're rolling through the crawl space, you're not lifting up the edges and rolling through caulk yourself. You have the tape much neater. Okay.
And then we do we do, as you mentioned, you know, the Radon barrier that we have is the primary product, the cross laminated, but we do carry the Durascam and the Vapor Block Plus material, which is 6 mil. Mainly the reason for there is we do have some government work and other things where they spec'd out 6 mil,
right,
and they won't accept anything else.
That's right. They don't understand that 3 mil, because it's cross laminated, is stronger, more durable than your typical 6 mil. You know, Frank, a lot of applications for active salt depressurization make use of the sump drainage systems in the house. And if you got an open sump, it certainly is a big pathway. But by connecting to that sump, either and pulling your vacuum either off the sump or the drain tile that's connected to it, one can very easily reduce radon. So one of the things we obviously need to do is to seal the sump. So what things do you have for doing that?
Okay, this is a dome sump cover. It's a prefab type cover, and this cover has a viewing port, which is important if you have a sump pump in there and you need to see if there's water in there. And then it has a pre-drilled hole for your suction point. Mm-hmm. If you have an ejection pipe for a sump pump, holes would have to be cut in this cover to accommodate that.
So let's take a look at the elements here. There's actually 2 pieces. So this would get, in fact, let me go down to the concrete floor here and we can see a little bit easier perhaps. That this would go over the sump, and then there's holes here you can bolt it down. Now this comes with a gasket, right?
Correct.
Okay. That you would put underneath here. In fact, the gasket's already on it.
Yes. That
you would bolt this down. So this is fixed. And then the other piece, which is also drilled down, but you can see how it fits up. And if you need to take out to do some service work on the sump, you can do that. Now, because you've got a gap here, there's a brace that goes underneath this, right?
Correct.
Okay, that this would be there at the seam to provide structural support. And I could demonstrate this by jumping up and down on it, but I don't think I will. Okay?
Right.
But you get the idea that it's a good solid support. Now, this works well if you've got a round sump. What if you got an irregular sump or something just been chopped in the hole? What do you have for that?
We have standard square sump cover lids. Okay. One's a clear and one's a solid. Again, this is just a square lid, 1/4-inch PVC for this one, and you'd use this in a case where you don't have a sump pump in there. You don't really need to see in there what's going on with the sump pump.
This is very solid. So you would put this over the sump, drill it, and also anchor it and caulk around the edges so you don't lose your vacuum. But boy, even a 250-pound plumber could stand on top of this.
Correct. Most of the requirements there are our local ordinance that this has to be able to provide the support if somebody were to step on it and not fall through.
Okay,
and then this would be the clear one. Again, the same.
Doesn't look very clear to me, Frank.
It's got a cover on there, protective shield, just to so that it doesn't get scratched up. But the same idea, square lid that you would either anchor and secure or caulk with silicone caulk. And one of the things I wanted to point out is you do not want to caulk your sump lid down with the polyurethane caulk because this adheres so well that if you tried to gain access, you would probably destroy the cover.
Right. So use something that could be easily removed, and you get your main structural strength because you bolted it to the floor.
Correct.
Okay. Well, you mentioned any of these covers that you. Go ahead. Put that over there. Okay. Is you're going to make penetrations. So, and by the way, you would cut this with jigsaw or Sawzall. It cuts pretty easily.
Right. one of the like a Dremel type tool
Okay.
that has where you can do circles and things like that work very well.
Okay. So if I have to make a penetration, you want to have a seal around it.
Correct.
That's what that's for.
Yep. That's called a tie seal, and you would cut your hole. The tie seal would be secured in there. It's pretty tight if you cut the hole properly. You probably don't need to caulk it, but if it's a little bit loose, you can caulk around it.
And then your 4-inch PVC pipe, the one we've used, will fit right down through there very,
Yes.
very, very
Yeah, a
snugly.
little bit of water and soap in order to get it in there the first time, and it'll slide in there.
Great. Well, another thing you mentioned, Frank, is that, I mean, that sump wasn't put there for our purposes, for radon. There could be a sump pump in there, which means you're going to have to cut penetrations, and they make other seals that will go around the pump discharge.
Correct.
As well.
That would be a grommet for the discharge on the sump pump, and then in order for to get the power cord out, we have what we call a grommet, and basically we give some instructions on what size the hole needs to be to accommodate the seals.
That takes care of water getting out of the sump, but also there's water going into that sump, and it's like a soak-away drain. We talked about the drain shack, but sometimes you have surface water in the basement that get to the sump, or other things where you could have leakage. And tell us a little bit about these guys then, that would deal with how you would seal a floor drain without impairing its ability to drain water, or if you've got surface water going on top of your cover, you want to get water down into the sump. So that's where this would come in.
Correct. These are called draingers, and we've got various types. All of these draingers are on our website. So for different situations, you know, if it's a floor drain, this has a large rubber flange, basically, that would fit down into the floor drain. This is called the DR2. It's the most compact one, so it's going to fit almost any floor drain that's out there.
Right.
And you would just cut and trim the top seal to fit the cover on the drain.
You take the cover off first
Right.
and set that down in, right?
And then it has a little reservoir cup on the bottom that will hold a small amount of water, but if there's water flowing into the drain, it's going to allow this collar to slide up and allow the water to flow out. When there's no water flowing, the collar stays down. There'll probably be a little bit of water in there, and so what it does is prevent you from sucking air from this drain when you're using a sump pump type system. It's not often that the drains go into the sumps, but there's been a lot of cases where there has.
Well, and another thing I'll share is with this ring, that in dry climates, you know, the water in these traps can dry out. But the ring provides a mechanical seal that even though it may dry out, you still have some restriction to airflow. And as far as do I have to put this, if I have a floor drain, it's not all that common that you have to use it. It would be if you see you're losing air down through a floor drain that's due to your system, turn the system on and off, use a smoke bottle that we'll talk about in a second to see if there's actually air going down the drain. If there is, then incorporating one of these things may help your system or improve it. But if you don't need to put them in, don't put them in.
And like I said, there's various kinds. This one can be installed into a sump cover or another drain, if it's like a 3-inch drain. One of the things we run into on sump covers is that people have a condensate, like from an air conditioning system, that directly drips into their sump pump area. So in the case where you have that, in order to maintain the seal, you'd want to put a drainer on there.
So the condensate drain off the air conditioner would come over and stop right above it so it could drain down through here.
Correct.
Excellent.
The other places we've used these are, we've run into a lot of cases where the mitigators find drainage systems in the perimeter drain. So if you are tying into a perimeter drain, a lot of the window wells have drainage into them. So again, in order to not just be sucking air from that, they would install one of these drainers.
Right, which will still allow the surface water to get down.
Right.
Because it goes through a trap assembly in here, but it doesn't. The last thing you want to do is to shut off any kind of water drainage system that was installed there for another purpose than for future radon mitigation. Great. Well, you know, one thing that occurs to me, Frank, we were talking about sumps, is that, you know, if you don't have a good seal or somebody were to remove that sump, you'd lose an awful lot of air, right? From your house. So that kind of gets into, we've done a really good job of installing these things. What about how the person maintains it, and even future homeowners, which in my opinion gets us to labeling, things we have to label in a system, which certainly would be the sump lid. This is part of a radon system. If you remove the lid, turn the fan off, the fan is located, you know, let's say in the attic space, but it's tied to breaker so-and-so. So what do we have for, I mean, people can certainly make labels out of magic markers on pipe, but it's not very professional looking. So what kind of things can you do here?
Correct. These are vinyl labels, so they hold up very well. And this is just a standard caution label that would be attached to, like you said, a sump cover system, any of the pipe that's connected to the suction part of the system. And
around the membrane itself, so someone doesn't pull the membrane out of the crawl space.
Correct. And then we have a separate breaker label that so that if the system is tied into a separate breaker, or just to identify the breaker, so that somebody's not shutting it off for some reason, there's a label for the breaker. And then we also make custom labels. We can do custom labels in various sizes and shapes. A lot of the mitigators will buy a custom label that has their name on it, and so forth, for contact information.
The key thing is that you do label all portions of the system so that your homeowner or the next homeowner knows what to do with it. So what kind of tools do you have for the mitigation contractor and even the homeowner themselves?
Okay, we have various smoke bottles. The contractors generally, because if they're doing it on an ongoing basis, they're going to be using it quite often. And this is a special Teflon bottle that will not deteriorate from the smoke is very caustic. So you have to be very careful when you're filling the vial, and just make sure that you're wearing protective gear and stuff when you're filling the vial. But basically, this bottle here would be filled. There's 2 vials. It comes with this. There are 2 glass vials. You would empty an entire glass vial into the smoke bottle.
So take off the lid, break the ampule, and then pour it in. Do this outdoors and a long ways away, because it's really nasty, and then quickly put the top back on.
Correct. And then this bottle, again, will not deteriorate. It's fairly expensive, but it's just because of the bottle type. But generally, this is more for the mitigators. The smoke will last a very, very long time. Generally, the mitigators lose the bottles before the smoke runs out.
That's right.
So that's
an extremely helpful tool.
And then this is a very short-term smoke bottle. It's basically so you don't have to handle any of the smoke or the chemicals. The instructions are basically you just step on it, crush the vial, and then the smoke in here is good for at least 24 hours, but then after that you want to throw the bottle away.
So this would be good maybe for a do-it-yourselfer to do this. And again, the purpose of this is to find where your leaks are in the system, to caulk it and seal it.
Right. And also to do some basic diagnostics if you're drilling drilling a hole to see if you're getting extension across the slab. You can drill a hole and see if you're getting smoke sucked down the hole.
Right. Of course, I mean, these are quantitative. They tell you that there is smoke going down that test hole. It doesn't tell you how strong the vacuum is. So what do we have for actually being able to measure that?
Okay. measurement basically is called a digital micromanometer, and there's various types, and we carry 2 different types here. This one has some memory. It's a Dwyer manometer, and it will also measure various units. So you can do inches of water column, pascals, and various units. And this is very handy to do diagnostic works when you're talking about very small, minute measurements. This is a 3-digit micromanometer.
So it reads the thousandths of an inch.
Thousandths of an inch, very, very small.
Okay, so there's 2 ports on this. One you would connect to maybe a 1/4-inch tube that you would go down through a drilled hole in the slab about the same size, little putty on the end, so you can measure the differential pressure between this point and this point. If this is below the slab, this is open, so it'll tell you what kind of vacuum you have across the slab with maybe your vacuum cleaner on as a diagnostic tool or your actual system. The other thing that I use these for is the same device, is I can attach a pitot tube to this too, can I?
And we have a pitot tube here, and this can be attached to that same micromanometer with some tubing. In this case, you would hook both ports on the micromanometer to the pitot tube. And for people that aren't familiar with it, we do have instructions of how to make those connections and to interpret the results.
And what you would use this for is in diagnostics or maybe troubleshooting a difficult system. I get calls from students all the time. I have a problem house, and I say, all right, what's the airflow? It's a very key measurement, and you do that by drilling a hole in the discharge pipe of your system and inserting the pitot tube in, and you can measure velocity, and knowing the area of the pipe, you can determine the volume. It's a very, very handy tool and an inexpensive add-on to the micromanometer. But I would say, for those at least starting out, wherever I put it, minimum start with a smoke bottle. That gives you a lot of indication. As you get more into it, then these are handy, very handy devices.
And just to add to that, you know, a lot of people, and especially the mitigators, will say, I have a fan in, and it doesn't seem to be doing the job. Well, one of the first questions that anybody is going to ask generally is, well, what's the manometer reading, and how much suction do you have, or how much airflow do you have? Without that information, it's very hard to be able to determine whether you have the right fan or not.
Mm-hmm. Well, you know, Frank, we've talked a lot about fixing existing houses and so forth. And there's a big push right now as far as installing systems during new construction. More and more jurisdictions are adopting that requirement. So let's talk about some of the unique things that you have for new construction, if we can.
Okay. The matting material, here's an example of the T-riser.
Okay. Got lots of things to pull out.
We'll show you. The Met is configured. It comes in a roll of 45 feet, and the reason for that size roll is basically is ease of shipping. We can UPS this material. Mm-hmm. Large quantities we would put on a pallet and freight. But generally, it's comes in a 45-foot roll. You basically just roll it out and staple it down, and some duct tape and a sharp utility knife.
Well, let me pull this out a second so we can see what this really is. This is a mat that would be laid directly on the compacted subgrade. Some details you see where we would bury a perforated pipe to collect the radon. This goes right on the subgrade, so you're not having the trench as you would for a 3 or 4 inch pipe. And then the concrete is poured directly over the top of this. And this is a strip. You don't have to cover the complete, underneath the slab with this stuff. Generally a foot or so off the wall is what I tell people, kind of around in the perimeter. And it works extremely well. You got to make sure that you have at least the minimum 3.5 inches of concrete over the top of this. But what you have in your hand is the other kind of cool thing is you got to be able to connect this to a round pipe. So
right.
I assume.
So yeah, this is the T-riser. So it does your transition from the matting material to either a 6-inch or a 4-inch pipe. And generally, again, this is mainly for new construction, but we've also used it in a lot of mold and mildew and sewage remediation type jobs.
Cool.
Where they're laying it down as a temporary system.
And to be clear, this would be underneath the slab, so it floats your mud up to here. And of course, this thing is closed, so that keeps the concrete from getting down in there. And then you would come back after the slab is cured, caulk your joints and so forth, but then cut this off that you insert your 4-inch. Or if you're going to a 6-inch like you would in a very large building, perhaps, you could cut this and put a 6-inch pipe in. Now, as far as holding this down, if I can...
Yeah, while you're grabbing that, I mean, the key there is that the matting material, like he said, can be laid right on the substrate. So you're eliminating to bringing in a lot of fill and or putting a barrier down.
Well, that's right. As you look at ASTM 1465, it doesn't require the use of special aggregates imported when you use this system. Now, again, putting this in, one needs to make sure it stays in place while the concrete's going down. So I assume that's what this guy is for.
Yeah, correct. Colorado, we get some high winds here at times, and when people lay the matting material down, they're not sure when they're going to pour. So it may be several days before they go to pour. So yeah, you do want to secure it. The nail holds the T-riser in place, and then basically just landscaping staples can be placed every 2 to 3 feet is what we recommend, and then put a piece of duct tape over the top so no concrete gets
and that
in
keeps
there.
that from the mat from kind of blowing up, pushing into the concrete. And as far as the corners, there's no special corners because you're going to kind of go into a loop that you can just cut it at a 45-degree angle, fold your fabric back, butt up the other portion of the mat, lay the fabric back down, and then tape it.
Correct, and like all of our instructions and other photographs and stuff of the material being installed is on our website.
Well, I'm going to share this because you didn't say it. One of the advantages I see with this, in addition not having to bring in gravel or trench, is that it goes down real fast.
Yes.
That you could lay this out for a house in about maybe half hour to 45 minutes, and oftentimes you get the call from the builder saying the concrete truck is going to be there, oh, by the way, 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, and it's already 5. So you can get out there early in the morning and lay this down very quickly. And you don't need to have any other plastic over the top of this other than what would be normal for the moisture barrier that the concrete worker would be installing. And
like Doug said, that's more the norm than it is the exception, because the mitigators around here are always scrambling to install a job before the concrete people get there.
That's right. We've covered a lot of ground here. Just looking around the table, what are we missing? Probably the only thing is this little guy right here. A book that was written that walks through all aspects of active soil depressurization. It's the step-by-step manual for radon reduction. And homeowners have used this for a couple reasons. To do it themselves. There are some handy homeowners out there, or become informed consumers. And a lot of mitigation contractors have used it as well. What's, as far as training, as a reference, or even training some of their employees. So what's been your experience too with that?
Correct. Very, very good reference. We have a lot of homeowners, but also a lot of professional people that have purchased the book. And even if, like you said, a homeowner may be inquiring about doing it themselves, a lot of times when they get the book and they see how much detail is, they may go out and hire a professional.
Right. At least they know what to expect.
But it's just a good reference and good support document when you're trying to talk to people over the phone and they have something to reference to.
Well, and speaking of support, we talked through a lot of things here today, and I'm sure there's some other areas that we could get into that, a benefit to the contractor or the do-it-yourself or anything. The key thing here is that there's somebody who answers the phone that is knowledgeable you know, and working with your suppliers, that's important. So how do people get a hold of you, Frank?
Our phone number is 1-800-688-5776. We have 4 people here that do answer the phones, and if for chance you do get onto the message system, we get the message and we'll call you right back.
Right. And you have a website?
And we have a website. It's www.radon, P as in professional, D as in discount, S as in supply.com. And all the materials we talked about today have a lot more information. There's pricing information on there, and you can order directly online.
Right. Well, super. Well, Frank, this has been great, and I'm sure it's a benefit to the people watching this, the kind of details and different things, actually seeing the things that they may be using, or they are seasoned contractors and haven't seen. So once again, on behalf of CERTI, thank you very much.
Thank you.